All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son, the Hamashiach, or Hamashiach, who some call Yahushua, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yashayah, Yahusha. We mostly know as Jesus Christ. I wanted to talk briefly, about rearing up these kids. It was this particular question that I had that kind of bothered me. And let me put the maybe this may have an open dialogue today. And of course, we're gonna go over. We're gonna bring in about rearing some scriptures on rearing up these kids. But the question was, where where are the where are those children that have been born in? Where are the fruits? Where are the families? Where are the kids that have been born into this walk, who've been here, you know, you know, 20, 30 years? We have that one West version of Israelism that started in 1969. Where are those that just grew up knowing? Where are the fruits of those? I don't say, out of all the Israelites that I ever met, I met very few. I met very few that were born in, I met very few Israelites when I met them and said, how long how long you been in the truth? Well, so and so amount of years. But I've never met someone say, no, I born it. I always knew. I was raised in it. And I said, dang, you know what? That can be problematic. And I was thinking, well, what are we doing? How are we losing? How are we losing? At what point are we losing the youth within this walk? At what point are we losing them, and what's causing us to lose the youth, and where this thing continues to start over, where we're not having, and that's why it's stagnant, because our kids should be born with that little knowledge that we have now, that little Deuteronomy 28, and these identity markers, and that, like, little precept pack we have now. If they born in, they should have that thing memorized by the time they 7. They should be speaking Hebrew, or fluently, if you saying you the Lashon Kodash, and that's what you're saying, you teaching them. But they're not carrying on the knowledge. They're not carrying and enhancing the doctrine. All right, the doctrine is not being enhanced and carried on by the youth. Shalom, family. Shalom, out. Welcome in. Zadik, Yah. Zadik, Yah. That's pretty much what I wanted to deal with today, is just thinking about what how are we losing the youth, and also about the youth versus Chicago. I mean, the youth versus the National Guard out there in Zedekiah. Apologies. The youth versus these the National Guard, and some of these things that we've been dealing with, man, and talking about, just recently with the situation with the brother who ended up getting killed, and brother saying, "Well, I don't like because he said we violence and we trying to pretend like we're not violent, like we're not a violent people, you know. And what's making us violent? What are the instruments that are making us violent? And that comes down to some of the culture and us losing our kids because of the culture. Our kids, are they really grasping on to the culture? Or is the culture of the world still pulling them into the world? You know, yeah, you playing the truth music when you cleaning up, and you playing the truth music on Saturday, but it got that little bop to it, like Young Boy. It got that little Young Boy bop to it, you know. And eventually, they take their headphones and they go upstairs and listen to that Young Boy. And listen to that Young Boy, man. We'll pull up a couple scriptures, man. Um, and and a lot of the stuff is gonna come out of Proverbs. A lot of it's gonna come out of Proverbs, but like I said, it's gonna be some quick hitters. You know, it ain't gonna be nothing deep, but it is something that we have to discuss because we are losing these kids. Um, and you know, they gotta learn. You know what I'm saying? It's certain stuff you just gotta go through stuff. You just gotta see it for yourself. You gotta go out here and bump your head. Unfortunately, um, I couldn't be told nothing. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want your kids to be like that. You don't want them to have to go through. And everybody ain't like that. All the kids ain't like that. Some kids do listen. I'm gonna go to Deuteronomy. Proverbs 29. I want to start. Um, I start at 15. We'll read down to 17. I want to make sure I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. It says the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother shame. And that's a main one. You know, the rod and reproof giveth wisdom, a child left to himself bringeth his mother shame. And y'all might be there. Both of y'all might be there. Both parents may be there. And that's very rare in a lot of our cases. We got to deal with that reality also. And we'll really have to start there just with marriage and kids, having kids outside of marriage and not structuring marriage right and not doing that properly. It's one of the dysfunctions that's starting up, one of the problems to this child raising situation. We having and then bringing in children from other marriages and that, that's you starting out, with some little disorder there. Not saying these things gotta be perfect, but we do just have to recognize the dysfunction out the gate. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes even with both parents there, even with both parents, us giving them these devices and letting them run off and have full access to this darn iPad or have your phone, you left that kid by himself. That kid ain't being watched. It's quiet. The kid may be safe, and the kid really not safe. Being Frank said, I believe the problem is the kids are not being raised, trained in the ways of Yah. 2 hours a week in things of Yah, and the rest of the things of the world is not training them. And that's a fact. I believe that also. It's not enough. It's not enough just to train them on, like you said, on the Sabbath, and you bring them to class and you sit them down, let them be quiet for a little second or whatever. Yeah, you know, um, and it's not, and it's especially for kids, them being so social, they can't be by themselves like that. They need to be around others. In some of the movements, like I said, I did a lot of reading. It was the Shrine of the Black Madonna that was in Atlanta, and there were some Muslims, but all of them wore the little hijabs, and they wore all white. All the kids were, uh, well spoken. They, you know, everybody recognized that this particular group, um, was their kids were very disciplined and obedient, and was a good look how they were raising their children. And I think the same thing too with Yahweh Ben Yahweh and them. Uh, they had a reputation like that, also a good reputation, as far as their kids. Um, but it was a lot of them. They was together. Like you said, it wasn't just a weekend thing or a thing, where we're coming together once a week, once a month, once a year. These kids grew up together, and um, and they held on to it. Um, where they at now, who knows? You know what I'm saying? But we just examining some of the things that could tie that knot to try to get this thing where they're gleaning to it. And it's not something that they're just losing later once they become teenagers and once they go off to college or as soon as they leave the house, they done with it. And it has to be in them. It has to be their character. There's some kids, and they don't have to even be a religious. There's some kids that they are who they are. They not trying to be trying to be with the cool kids or da 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 da. They like what they like. If they into Marvel and super comics and all of that stuff, that's what they into. They strong on that. That's it. But most kids are influential and kind of follow the trends. But again, that being left to himself, um that's one of the main issues. We have to look at ourselves and examine how much time these children are having to themselves, being entertained by the world. Being entertained by the world. And are they picking up that book themselves? Or do you always have to tell them? Are they coming to you telling them? That's what I'm saying. It has to be fed till it's, and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen kids reading that text for themselves and just, breaking that thing down or having questions and saying, hey, you know what, I want to, I've seen young 18, like I said, you got brothers in the body that have that hunger, um, and have that zeal, but he's rare. He's rare at his age. Ciroc too. He was like that too. I think he was like 18, 19. Coming in and Brother Zias. But yeah, how do we get it to translate into a long-term situation? Well, it was at 15, verse 16, it says, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give delight unto thy soul. Correction. And we've gotten away from that. When I was growing up, everybody could correct you. Everybody could whoop you. Everybody in the neighborhood could whoop you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure it was even worse before my days. Um, and that's why everybody was respected. All adults were respected by these kids. They do not respect no adults. They do not, and a lot of these adults are afraid to say something to these kids. They're afraid to say something. Um, and we're losing because of that. We don't want to correct these kids, and that's what's done happen over there in Chicago, where these kids, no, the adults don't want to correct them. Nobody want to say nothing. They just berating in stores and taking stuff. I forget what store that was. It was one chain of stores that stopped and just packed up and just left. But it then got to that point where now they had to bring in the National Guard because the adults can't correct them. And I don't see many of these. I don't see these adults crying. Like the only people I see that's complaining about the National Guard being there is the youth. I think a lot of these parents are relieved that these folks is coming in. Let me see Colossians chapter 3. Well, before I go soft on them. Hold on. Let's just stay in the Proverbs a little more. And I know I want that Sirach. Proverbs. I think it was 13. It was 13, but that's another one I wanted. It says, a wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not his rebuke. It says a wise son heareth his father's instructions. Is it the lapse of fathers? A lot of us, especially in the black community, are growing up absent fathers. Are we there as men? Are we there raising their kids? Me, I was raised by a single father. But that was dysfunction also. Because he's not there. You gotta work. You gotta provide. You gotta work. You gotta provide. Some of that other stuff not there. Some of the soft stuff you need. Like I said, we have to examine the dysfunction and address those things and stop trying to blame everything on the system. The system is the system. It's gonna be there. It's what we got to deal with. It's what we up against. That's the default. It's the default settings. You can't. You're not gonna change that. Let me get Proverbs 1:8. You're not gonna change that. Proverbs 1. It says, my son, hear the instruction. Proverbs 1 verse 8. Hear the instructions of the father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace under thy head, the chains about thy neck. My son, if a sinner entice thee, that's all we want. And then it kind of goes into the this situation on people enticing you to rob or enticing you to go out and commit crimes, which kids do need. And because again, if we talking about the Chicago situation and these folks, the way they done created these gangs and stuff like that, that's pretty much, yeah, we'll read it. That's because that's pretty much going into the same stuff that we're dealing with. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not thy law of thy mother. For they should be an ornament of grace upon thy head, and the chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We can find precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. All right. So it's just, those trying to entice you to go rob somebody, kick in somebody's door, telling the child to don't do that. And I say, I got a nephew, man, he done went through every aspect of the school system. I've watched the school system give him a million chances. Can't say the school system, for gave him a million trillion chances. It's all kind of different programs. And he went through every one of them. To initially, they just had to say, no, we ain't doing it no more. And they expelled him out of the system. And is it because he ain't have the? No, it's a lack of discipline. It's a lack of discipline and being left alone. Is if I had to put a cause or a root on it, that would be the cause for me. Just lack of discipline and being left alone, where he could do, because he wasn't fighting, he wasn't bringing guns to the school, he wasn't doing anything. He just walking out on teachers, have no respect for teachers, cussing at students, just stuff that's just really just unnecessary. That can be easily avoided. But anyway, once I seen that and seen how patient they were with him and how that operated, I had to let that. I can't make excuses and say the system is nah. No. And then you can homeschool. You got a lot of places, a lot of people that but that's if you got the time. That's if you got the time. Do you have the time to homeschool your child? You don't want them to learn the ways of the world. You don't want them to learn do you have the time to do that? We don't even have daycares. That's what I'm saying, man. We so far behind, man. We can't even come together to, and I don't even think doctrine. Well, yeah, doctrine will have to play an issue. Because we so doctrine heavy. I wanted to salute my brothers. And I may do another video just to salute them. IUIC Columbus. The IUIC group out here in my city. Every time I see them, or every time I see one of their members, it's love. We dap each other up, and we don't get doctrinal. Dap each other up, check on each other, and we keep it moving. We salute each other and keep it moving, man. Um, hold on, let me get this other verse. And most of this is just like I said, man. Most of it's just dealing with the discipline too, because we, we've gotten away from this, and we wanted to, and I don't, because I don't have kids either. Too, I don't know what it looks like to have a little me and try to whoop a little me. I don't know how hard that is. I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's difficult. um, and so yeah, I can't, but why we are doing that generation after generation. We kind of getting softer and softer on these things. Like I say, everybody used to can whoop you in the neighborhood, and I think that's one of the things that made me a little more disciplined than my sister. Even though we grew up in the same neighborhood, um, everybody in the neighborhood kind of got soft. It got softer after each generation, and they didn't know them like they, when we was growing up, man, we was at the same people's house every day, every other day. I would eat over there if I stayed over there too late. Um, but now we don't even know their neighbors. You don't know the neighbor's name. You definitely don't know the kid's name. There ain't nobody playing outside. It's different. What's it? Proverbs 23:13. It says, "Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. If thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die." All right. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. My son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. Yea, my reign shall rejoice when thy lips speak right things. Um, but that's what we wanted there. Thou shalt beat him with the rod. You shall deliver his soul from hell. And a lot of our kids have gone. They've strayed into that realm. Let me hold on. Let me see if I can find that. Let me go to YouTube. I don't know if y'all seen that during Young Boy concert. Hold on. Oh. And to be honest, it looked crazy. Uh, it looked crazy, but at the same time, um, they say everybody kind of made it out. Nobody got injured, nobody got hurt. Well, I take that back. Say gunshots and fights break out at the NBA concert. Um, so I take that back. But uh, it was almost a point where these kids, they enjoying themselves, but the way they enjoy themselves now, and we old. I'm old. Let me just say it. I'm old. Um, I'm trying to see if I can show y'all, but I should have had this ready already. But he Y'all just had to take it. Y'all just had to look at it yourself. I don't even want to attempt to show it because it ain't no telling what's gonna show. They might be booty popping and all kind of stuff going on. But you know, it almost looked it like they were possessed. In some of the clips that I've seen. Um, and he brings on a certain culture that, you know, where they gotta wear the Pooh Shiesty mask and um and they toting guns with big hammers and banana clips and switches, guns with the switches on it. You know, that culture is being you know, ushered in, and this individual is almost he almost got like a Michael Jackson almost got like a Michael Jackson kind of swag to him, kind of aura to him right now. Well, they saying he, you know, he doing ridiculous numbers. Like he almost he's selling out arenas. Um, and then this is the influence that is coming in that's pulling our children away um from this walking. Like Aqua was saying, they really not getting enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. And then and you know, if you got a small body, like I said, this is something that has to be engulfed every day. This is something that has to be sat around, talked about. It has to be lived. It has to be lived all day, every day. It can't just be lived on the Shabbat. And is that example, the fact that we don't have our kids and our that we don't have the youth there, people who have been in this walk for 30 some years, or people that we don't have the children that have been in this walk from birth. Is that a sign of us just, you know, really just living this walk out on the weekend? You know, is that a sign of that? It one time they pulled up on Abba Bibbins. Abba Bibbins, his son, you know, he operates as a, you know, like the Judaism, and he's out there in Israel, but with his grandson, his grandchildren, and you know, they're totally engulfed. He's been, you know, Israelite his whole life, and even knows that his granddad started something called the Black Hebrew Israelites, or the One West 25th Hebrew Israelites. Um, but again, that was what spurred this whole thing. Is why are we losing these children? Why is this thing continually to reset? And if it continues to reset, it's going to continue to stay stagnant. It's like in dead water. It's in dead water. Um, Also with the thing with what's that brother name? What was the dude name, man? The Charlie Kirk dude. A lot of us were you know, we was going back and forth on that earlier. Let me tell y'all something about what I really feel about the Charlie the that Charlie Kirk dude. Yeah, may his rest his soul. I don't believe. I believe he was just a debater. I believe he found a niche in debating, and it getting him attention, and it getting him certain places, and he was going with his niche. I don't think that's personally the way he felt. And it's not that um it's that I done seen people like that really feel that way. and they don't play around like he play. He too excited, too to have these debates. It's kind of fun. It's fun to him. Um, real race soldier. It ain't fun. Like this is war. This is war. Nah, you don't get that. You ain't finna be going back and forth with no Negro and da 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 da. Um, a lot of people do political things. When politics, um, they move whatever moves the arrow. They go with whatever flows with the arrow. When I was like when I showed that video with I did a clip when I went to that KKK rally. It was full with a lot of white people were there. Um, or if you seen Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders had a picture with MLK marching. Does that mean Bernie Sanders is, oh man, he was just always this great advocate for black people? No. Some of this stuff be political moves. So you can go up in the chain. This man starts debating and he's mentioned and he's you know bumping shoulders with Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders in college took that picture and stood up there and held that sign next to Martin Luther King. Um, he can always use that to leverage for the black vote anytime that he wanted to run for president. When I was at that KKK rally, there was a lot of um, political protesters, what they call them, and they dare to get the Photoshop. They dare to get the shot. They dare to get taken down to the ground. They got smoke bombs and smoke grenades. They got drums and stuff. It's man, this thing, this is so many layers to this thing that you got to be careful just accepting um what they give you, what they give you at the first sight. Hold on one second, y'all. My bad, y'all. But like I was saying, that it's a lot of politics, man. It's politics. It's politics, man, and it ain't as it seems, man. Stuff is not as it seems, and you know, to me, he seemed a little too. I don't know, man. Just too happy to, too excited to talk about some of those topics. Okay, where you go? Okay, it's your turn. And, you know, when you see like what's that leader? I forget the leader of the Christian identity movement. He's serious. He don't play around. He having them same conversations, but it's a little, his temperament is a little different than what I've seen from that brother Charlie Kirk. But yeah, if I had to guess, but you can't play with that stuff, man. That's what we, that's what we done seen with this stuff, man. People, like a message I was giving about being off the tracks. People have, people are in stressful situations, where they've never been in this country. A lot of us are broke. We've been broke, but it's some of them that have been broke in this country, that have never been broke in this country, that have never felt some of the things that they're feeling in the country, never had some of the, or just dealing with certain things certain sins, certain iniquities that they're trying to deal with now. That them doors wasn't open, but the doors done got open, and now the people trying to shut the door, and they about to lose their mind. And they'll kill for it. And that's why I was giving the message, man, for everybody to be, he said freedom of speech, man. It ain't free. It ain't really free. You know what I'm saying? Somebody had to pay for that, and somebody's gonna have to continue to pay for that. And somebody's gonna have to protect that. And that's why I said we be bucket on the system so much, but so dependent on it. It don't make sense. It don't make sense, especially for Israelites. We bucket on something that we actually depend on also is kind of mind blowing to me. But we like to pretend. We like to pretend, man. We'll bang on how people are what they're doing in the school system, but we're not getting involved. We're not going up there as a unity. We're not going up there as a body. We're not in the board meetings. We don't even, a lot of us don't even know that stuff is happening. We're not in the PTA meetings. We're not, we're not coming together and saying, hey, well, listen, will you cook, feed our kids no pork? We don't want no pork. Our kid is do you got kosher meals? Are there kosher meals available for my child? Okay, they got uniforms. My child has to put fringes on his uniform. Or like I said, or homeschool. But who's advocating for these things? Who's having these discussions? Brothers in the same little area, just like I was talking about the IUIC brothers down here. They can have their kids at the same school and say, well, our kids is, da 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 woo woo. Let's see if we can make these things available. Can they wear fringes? Can they da 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 woo woo? And then just go up to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. But we have to play the game. We have to play the game. We have to operate within within this system. They don't need a bucking. I'm sorry. Ain't no need a bucking against it. You're gonna have to operate within the parameters of it. And we have to stop pretending like we want to play the slave narrative. We play the slave narrative so much. And if we gonna play the slave narrative, and that's what we saying when we was dissing it, you don't deserve nothing. You didn't earn your way out of slavery. Like it's war. We're slaves, we're just tools. And really, it's because them fighting each other. Them fighting each other and one on the other hand on another that we, that we got where we at now. But we can't say a slave cannot say, "Hey, man, I deserve this." That's not, that's never how slavery ever worked. Throughout history, what I'm saying. Even when we left Egypt, we left with, took some of their stuff. But out of every captivity that we released from, we didn't get land in Babylon. We didn't get to own pyramids and say well, these are pyramids, man. We built this place and this is us. That ain't how that works. You was a slave because you were the weaker. You got taken over. This is war. And we're gonna get back into that too, because there's narrative too. Hold on, let me pull it up. In Ezra chapter 2. Ezra chapter 2. Where we came out with 8,000 slaves. Priests running, Levites returning. Priests removed. Hold on. $800, 2,000, 2,000, 600, 4,000. Where is it? Hold on, here we go. You got the children. You got the children of Solomon's servants. You got the children of Solomon's servants here. Children of Zotai, the children of Zahareth, the children of Peruda. Solomon's, jump down to 58. The Solomon's servants were 392. And then there's another one where it's 8,000. Besides the servants, here we go. The whole congregation together. Wait. 2,000 says, besides the servants and the maids. Okay. Verse 65 says, besides their servants and their maids, of whom there were 7,300. 7,337. And there were among them 200 singing men and singing women. All right. This is coming back out of Babylon. Coming out of Babylon with 7,000 basically about 7,500 slaves, and 50,000 of us coming out of there. So now these are the children of the prophets that went up out of the captivity of those which had been carried away from Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, and came again unto Jerusalem and Judah, every one unto his city, which came with Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah, Zechariah, Reeliah, Mordecai, Bishon, Mispah, Bigvai, Rehum, Benaiah, the children of the men of the people of Israel. And then it goes down and gives a list of all the people. All right. But you know, what's the percentage of 50 some thousand of us came back, and we also came back with 7,500 slaves coming out of Babylon. And that's connected to Isaiah 14, but we don't want to deal with that. But the reason I was bringing that up, because of the us wanting to be victims on one end, but also wanting to be equal. Like if we slaves, we got to get out. You go back to your land. Slaves you don't get to control unless you win the war. Unless you win the battle. You can't just expect people just to give you something. And what we've gotten today and what we've gotten here, we didn't just get it. All right, it was gotten through, stuff like the civil rights movement and even those people in Dimona, Israel, when they left and they went to Ghana and then they went to Israel. The only reason they end up getting that land is because one of the members ended up getting killed at a bar mitzvah. One of them ended up getting killed at a bar mitzvah, and because of that death, they end up giving them that land over there. I forget what they call it. I guess it's the City of Peace. I know it's Dimona, but I know it had like a phrase name to it. But one of them got killed at a bar mitzvah. What they used to do is sing most of the time. They did a lot of singing and stuff. We got a lot of old videos from the 80s. Whitney Houston, going out there baptized, Stevie Wonder, all them folks used to go out there. But even them, they end up losing some of their kids, The world is powerful, man. I think that's one of our problems too, man. We just underestimate the world. We underestimate the influence of that phone, the influence of some of these devices. Man, you can lose your child, man. You can lose your child. It's easy. And you mess around your child pull you in. You mess around your child, go out there and then you mess around and your child start pulling you into the same foolishness, man. And you just, because you tired of fighting. You get tired of fighting them. You get tired of trying to tell them. You give in. It's your child. You want to help them, but what can we do better, man? Y'all hit the comments. What can we do? What can we do better to keep ourselves set apart? What is that? What are we doing to be set apart? Outside of fringes. And majority of us don't wear fringes every day. Um, very few. And like I say, that came about because of Bishop Nathaniel. That was he splintered off into that 12 tribes group, and he was one of the first ones to issue that wear fringes every day. That wasn't you did wear them on Shabbat, but not every day. That, from what I've heard, that came from Bishop Nathaniel before IUIC. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all, man, and talk briefly about that stuff that was going on and in our youth that's in ISIS, and I'm dealing with my nephew, man, and I see the youth. He's not in it. He's not dealing with no Israelite stuff anyway. But um, even the world, even for a worldly, even from a worldly standpoint, those things that he's meditating on, and it comes down to meditation. You are what you meditate on. As a man thinketh, so is he. Um, if he's meditating on this poison, that's what's gonna get produced. He run around like NBA young boy all day. Even he ain't got to have no headphones on. And pretend like I'm like, and it's like, shirt off is, I don't know how you produce it. I don't know how you produce that, man. It can only be produced to this world, man. Nobody want their child. But I don't know, man, because again, especially some of these single mothers, man, they they like these YNs. And I forget that one sister. There was one sister that dressed her baby up as a, and put all of these tattoos on the child, and had them, taking pictures of them with the tattoos on them, and had the wig locks and all of this stuff. And it's like, man. But that's where we at, man. Let me give y'all a couple more verses, and then we'll get up out of here. Um, and then, like I said, is it not majority of children? I can't even say it's majority of children. Um, my niece done graduated and went to college. She had a boyfriend. He did pretty good. I got little cousins, all of them good. It's not the majority. I can't say it's the majority, but um, it can feel that way for me because I'm just around it. I'm in a rough area. Um, Psalms 112. It says, "Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Wealth and riches. Hold on. Wealth and riches. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endure forever. Unto the upright there is also light in the darkness. He is gracious, full of compassion, and righteous. A good man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion." I think we just want those first two verses. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. And that's the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty. What does it mean? His seed shall be mighty. his seed shall be mighty in the earth. And is our seed mighty in the earth, or is it because we don't really delight greatly in the Lord? Is it because we don't delight greatly in the Lord? I'm gonna pull this verse in Sirach. Sirach chapter 30 and verse 12. It says, bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn and be disobedient unto thee, and so bring sorrow to thine heart. And all this is, man, just making sure you correct your child, man. These children need to be corrected. And I can tell you that too, man. A lot of these programs, they can't. I done seen too. I heard where teachers can't break up fights. They gotta wait for the for the police officer to get there. They can't touch them kids. They can't touch them today. Man, we used to get paddles. We used to get paddles at school. That was a way out, man. We used to ask for a paddle and say, you know what? Nah, don't call my parents. I'd rather take a paddle. I'd rather go down, take 3 paddles, and instead of you calling my parents. You can't tell these 4 kids now. Even though these kids being disruptive, tearing up the class, putting their hands on other kids. But these are times we living in, man. And I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers, man. I just something that I threw out there and I was questioning. Why was how do we keep these kids? How do we raise these kids and rear these kids in this walk? So they not out here like these YNs talking about we ain't worried about Trump. We got switches too. And yeah, like they finna fight the National Guard. And I stay over here by Fort, I'm in Columbus and Fort Benning. And sometimes when I'm Ubering, sometimes like when I Uber, it's mostly on base. It's mostly on base picking up these kids, man. And they different. They learn. It's a discipline they learn in there. They get in that car. They saying, "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for picking us up, sir. Thank you. How your day going, sir?" They had me saying it. And it gave me appreciation for what they doing to those kids. They not, you think it's a joke. They aren't playing with them kids, man. They in there training. It ain't no joke. At airborne school and all that, like I'm right there next to all of that. Ranger school. Those Ranger students. That's all of that. All of that's at the base near me. Airborne and Ranger school. Man, they not playing with them kids over there, man. It ain't no joke. Now I can't speak for everybody else and whatever, but I'm telling you what I see. It ain't no joke. And they are learning a certain discipline in there that they can use in life. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm trying to get your kids to go into the military, but if they lacking discipline, like my nephew, but he just too gone. He too far gone to even address that for him. But yeah, y'all. Shalom, saints of Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahuwah. Yohei Vai. Shalom, Saint. Um, but yes, he too far gone. But yeah, I'm gonna get on up out of here, y'all. Y'all willing, man, I can get to drop some lessons. I'm kind of swamped right now with doing football season and trying to get these uniforms and stuff together at the last second. But I do have a lot of videos that I gotta get to. A lot of videos that I gotta get to. Pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. We'll see y'all on the next one. Shalom.